Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to another Angular Air. My name is Alyssa Nicoll, and I'm so very excited for this episode. Before we dive into our guest of honor and our panelists, let's talk about our sponsor. So today, this episode is proudly sponsored by Progress, the team behind Kendo UI for Angular, which is a powerful component library of professional grade UI components. So a huge thank you to Progress for their continued support for not only the Angular community, but for helping keep Angular Air free. But without further ado, let us welcome Sonder to the stage. Sonder, how are you doing, darling?
Hi. I'm doing well. I think this is the 7th or the 8th time that I'm on the channel.
I was scrolling back through the years, and it's always so good. It's always so good to have you on the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. And then also today we have Mike, Brocky, and Manfred with us. How are you both doing today? You staying warm? Fine. Or maybe you're not fighting that? I know Manfred's fighting the cold.
Yeah, it's really cold here, 40 Fahrenheit, 4 Celsius. So yeah, as mentioned before, it should be forbidden to have a temperature like this. So let's see what legislation can do there.
We had some snow over the weekend, and I was not prepared to see snow. There was a dusting of snow. I was like, no. But I have a couple of sweatshirts within arm's reach if I get cold, so I'm good.
Do you both, I mean, you're both living the winter wonderland life. Do you both have Christmas trees up already? It's okay. It's a safe space.
Wonderland. I don't know. So not quite yet, but there is one in the kitchen.
Okay.
In a box.
I have an olive tree. Does that count?
I have an olive tree behind me too. Olive tree buddies.
Yeah. Is yours as fake as mine?
Yeah. Hey, we don't call out fake plants here. This is a safe space. By the way, Sonder, for those who didn't catch you any of the previous episodes or maybe haven't had the chance to see you live on stage, will you do an introduction of yourself?
Yeah, I can do that. Hi, I'm Sander. I'm doing programming for a little while now, 45 years, something like that. I'm building web applications since the early 90s. I'm having over 15 years of experience with Angular, so I know a couple of tidbits here and there. And today I'm excited to talk about the experimental signal forms.
We already got love coming in the chat. Everyone is so excited for the topic and for you. So, and also you look very young apparently. So we should feel very flattered.
I think I'm the oldest one in the room though. Oh, so I take that. Thank you.
I know. I'm actually very impressed with how long you can claim being a developer because I came to it late in life. So but it makes sense because of the wisdom you have to impart. So I'm going to share. Are you ready for screen share? Do you want me to pop it up?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, I have the power.
Let's do a topic intro. What do we do? Oh, there we go.
Oh, sorry. He kind of already mentioned.
We can talk about it while it's up. What are we going to talk about, Sonder?
We are going to talk about the new forms module in Angular because we only had 2 and that was not enough. So we have now number 3 and we finally got it right. We now have a proper form modules that is actually usable and enjoyable to build forms with. So I'm not complaining about the 3rd one. People that know me might have heard me complaining about the earlier ones, but I'm not going to go there anymore because I don't need them. We have signal forms now, so I'm happy.
Oh no, is everyone seeing the 2 screens? I'm wondering if you're both seeing. Yeah, I'm worried. Let me know, chat, if you see the phone one, because I did not mean for that to happen. One sec. Let me see if I can get the scene to change. Nope, not that. I have no idea. Mike, anything? Logan's saying there's 2, so I'm worried. Zach, will you check on Angular Air YouTube? See if we don't see it. Excellent. Amazing. I was worried that you all saw the mobile version. We're trying out StreamYard's multiple aspect ratios right now. So if you're on mobile watching Angular Air, you should see a different one. And I do think there might be two two versions of your live stream, Sonder, going live right now. I did see that also. But as long as we can only see one aspect ratio at a time, beautiful. Thank you so much for getting back to me, chat. Take it away, Sonder. Tell us, so you're much happier now with, well,
I'm
with the coming forms, right? Because it's not out yet.
No, it's not out yet. It is experimental, but I don't care. Go use this. Please go use this. You might need to update it a couple of times because they are still breaking the things. Every release, I need to update my code, but it's worth it. Believe me. So, but no kidding. If you are in a critical production application, don't use the experimental stuff just yet. It's not just a little bit too experimental right now. But if your application is not like mission critical, go ahead and build with it. If there is a new release, you probably will have to work for like an hour or an hour and a half to update to the latest things. It's never anything big. Usually, a little while ago, they gone from control to field for the directive name to couple things up. Things like that. It's like annoying, but not really breaking. It's like a search and replace. And in a reasonable sized application, you're done in half an hour.
Is it hard for you guys to know, because I feel like there are different levels of experimental or beta when
this is really experimental. It is stable though. It works really, really well, but it is experimental, and that actually means that with every release they are breaking tiny parts. And I know because I have been using every release and every next version and every RC, little things are breaking or not working. And not everything is already working flawlessly. And I expect that will be solved pretty soon. It will be released in version, experimental released in version 21. But what I'm seeing, what is being done on the code, it is going fast. It is getting better in every release.
That's awesome.
So I updated to RC3 this afternoon. So the code is, by the way, the code is available on this link. So if people want to play with this, go here. Shall I share the link with you so you can?
Yes, thank you so much. Also, I love what Lars is saying in the chat. He said that we are using signal forms in production and they're awesome. RC2 is very, very stable in my opinion. I love that.
RC2 and RC3 breaks on SSR though, but it's not a fatal flaw and you can still work with it. It will be fixed soon. Let's start with a little bit discussion. What is the biggest problem you usually have with forms? Alyssa, if you are building a form, what is your biggest issue? What is the issue where you're working to, where if you have to build something and you go like, oh no, I don't want to do that. What is the one thing in forms right now?
I feel like, gosh, first of all, which way of forms are you going with? Secondly,
what you know now.
Secondly, I feel like there's a lot of debate around the state and like how like you're handling that. I don't know. What are you hunting for? What's your struggle?
I never had any struggles with forms, but I'm so beyond struggles. But I always had to look up things if I had things like cross-field validation. If I want to iterate over an array of primitives, like, okay, I have a string array, like I have an array of text, like something I have over here. You see here the text. This is just a string array, and I'm iterating over it. Or if you have something like this, I have a contacts array where I have an email and a mobile there. And it's also an array where I'm iterating over. Those things are always a little bit challenging. And also things like cross-field validation. So I have two fields that are somewhat related, and something goes haywire, and you need to update those things. So I have a small form here on my screen. I'm pointing to my screen. Nobody is seeing that, but okay. I have the text. Let me go back to the text. Let me add a couple of tags. So in here, you already see, okay, there is validation because a tag cannot be empty and duplicated tags are not allowed. I now have 2 empty tags and apparently that is duplicated. So, okay, now it's not duplicated anymore, but it must be at least 2 characters. Oh, did you notice? There is not a dot here because it is only 1 error. And now there is a dot there because there are multiple errors. That has nothing to do with the Angular stuff. That is a trick I did. The not duplicate, you can see that I'm validating over multiple fields. Let me add a few more. Oh, apparently I can have a max of 7 tags. So I also have like validation on the length of my array. And it is also surfacing in my UI. I think that's cool. Let me delete a couple. Another one, something you probably have seen before. You have an email address that you want to have. And also I want to have a fax number. I want to add those. Oh, look, I have different validators here. Here I'm validating an email. Here I'm validating a phone number, which is something that comes handy every now and then. So I'm going to fill the phone number. Okay, not a valid phone number, but it is for demonstrating the validators. And here I have like A at B dot C. Ooh, orange. What means orange? Actually, orange means that there is an async validator running. So this thing is asyncly validated by my server. Well, actually, it is just a service that is having a set timeout in there to wait for a little bit, but it can be async to a service. And now I have I have a special email address. If I put that in, it tells me, hey, the email address already exists. And I've built in something extra if I do a couple of things. I had a server error. I could not reach my server, so I now have this error. Could not validate email address at this time. Please try again later, which is the most unuseful thing you can tell to a user. But this is a demonstration, so
True, but there is feedback, right? Like you're not saying nothing, which could be worse. So
I'm not sure in cases like this. That is
okay.
So, okay, I'm going not to the gov1 because that is okay. It's async validating. Ta-da! It works. I can now submit my form. I will go there. Also, you can see if I erase my password, I have a shitload of validators going on in the password. And I'm listing them. So this is a complex, not really a complex form, but there is a shitload of validation in this form. And I will show that later on. What is another? Let me reload the thing so that I don't have all kinds of crap going on. What is another thing that you always find difficult? Do you ever have to make special input things? Like, okay, we have this specialized input, and now we need a control value accessor.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's always so nice to write. So in here, I have like my favorite random int. Don't ask me. I got this for management. They said, no, we need this for marketing. And I said, yeah, but a random favorite. Okay, I'm fine. I will do it, but it makes no sense. Whatever. And this is just a normal input. I will show it in the code in a little bit. It has some extras. I can do some limitations there. So you see, this is really a specialized input thing. It's totally canny and stupid, but it works as specified. So I need questions about the form. Oh, you notice the stars, basically for it's required. Sometimes I didn't put in a message and then it shows me the default error. So there are the stars for the required. All of those things are in place. Yeah.
What are we doing from the UI side of what's custom, what's built in. So any of the error messages that are being displayed, are you have your own custom elements that are saying, hey, this field has an error, go ahead and show it. Okay. I'm just looking for what comes out of the box and what are the
things out of the box comes like our really solid forms module that provides you with everything that you need, and then you can hook it into your UI the way you like it. And apparently I like my way different than most other developers, but we will get there. So let's go into the code. This is a little bit big, but it is a big form. And first, let's go to the code part. I have a data service. No surprise, you are going to get data from a data service. I have an ID. I have a relation that I'm showing, and I'm just getting that by an ID, and that returns a writable signal. It could also return a resource, but I wrote this example before resources were a thing. And then here is a trick. So this is just a signal of sample data. Sample data is my sample data model. Let me start showing this. It is just a simple interface ID. The text is a string array, an address, and I have the context database, which is a sample contact detail, which is a type, an info, and a priority. Remember the form, the type, the info, and the priority. So back to the component. To create a signal form, all I do is use the form function, pass in the model, a signal with the model in there. So this is just a random signal, not random, it's a signal with my sample data in there. And I have a sample validation schema. I have a function that is taking care of the validation, and validation is not part of my components. It lives on its own somewhere else. I have a dialog. I will come after this. In here, I'm doing something with the dialog, which is not really interesting. And apparently, I'm doing something special here where I'm creating errors on submit. I didn't show that yet. Let me quickly show that. If I'm going to submit the form, there is like, I'm submitting it to the server now, so I'm talking to the server, and everything went hunky-dory apparently this time. And I got myself in a deadlock. Okay, restart this thing. Let's do this again. So I had no error now. Now I'm submitting it to the server again. Hey, and my server gave me back an error. I said, hey, this field has a random server-side error for testing purposes. That's cool. It's like a random error on a random field. I can reload this thing and I can do it again. And now it is a random error on a field that is not being displayed. So that is the only downside of this, and that is why it hangs. That is on me. Look, I got another error on the other field. So this is really being driven from the server. So that is what the submit gives you. The submit, you can send off the data to the server, and then you get the result back from the server, and the server says, hey, everything is okay except, and then you can feed this feedback back into your form without destroying the form and update the user like, hey, we still have a thing here. Update that, and then you can go ahead. So I think that the submit is one of the coolest things in the signal forms thing module. It's not a module anymore. How should I call this thing?
I know, but like the concept of a module outside of Angular module still exists in the dev world, right? So
yeah, but it's signal forms. It's not a module, but we keep on calling it a module apparently. That is so ingrained. Well, this is So you see there is nothing special in here. The code is really small and all of the validation is handled and so on. So I think that's cool. But let's go into the form a little bit. I have a normal form with a submit. With the on submit, you just saw that demonstrated. That is not interesting. That is not even different from before. I have a label. And here is the magic. You remember the FD? I know that Manfred was talking about this like 2 weeks ago. He also had like the form. I called it for FD for form definition. Your mileage may vary. You can do whatever. And this has a field tree of string, but the name is so a string. And Mike asked me like, hey, how do you show errors? I created a show error directive that handles this thing for me and just puts the errors inside of the DOM. I like doing it like that because I find that easier than adding a boatload of stuff inside of my form with all kinds of things. I like it to do it like this, but you don't have to do it like this. There are multiple things. Okay, the name, date of birth, password, that's all boring. Oh, notice that I'm not doing any validation stuff here. It's the show error, so I'm showing the error results, but I'm not doing anything here for validation. I'm doing the correct thing. I gave them an ID. I have a label for. Why am I doing all of those things? Probably because I want to have a good score on this thing. But this is the one that is the most important to me, the accessibility. This is taken care of, and that's why I do a little bit more than you usually see in a form. I'm doing the for with a name, for name, and that is the input. So it knows that this label belongs to this input, and so on and so on.
Do we I don't see a lot of ARIA stuff. I'm assuming forms are just semantic enough inherently, like that you don't have to tap on.
Yeah, forms are reasonably semantic, but you have to help it a little bit, especially if you have like screen readers and stuff like that. You need to take a little bit of extra care. You have to have a placeholder. You have to have like an ID, and also the autocomplete. If you, I don't get why it's highlighting the whole shebang all the time. The autocomplete is also important if you want to have like a proper score on there. Autocomplete basically tells your browser, hey, probably the user wants to autofill his name here, and that is like so important for users because that actually means they can just go to the form. Most of their things will be there, and they are done quicker. And having users that are done quicker translates to a higher conversion rate usually. So it's important to do that. I think the first interesting thing is this one. Remember the random number input? In here, I'm also using the field, which is the directive from the signal forms. And I'm just giving it a favorite random init, which is a field tree of number. That is all I have to do to use our custom control. I will show the custom control a little bit later on. Remember the context thing? I have a context component, which is a field get context, and it just gets, again, the context field tree. I'm just giving it, hey, here is the array, go do your thing component. So it's really easy to compose your form out of multiple parts.
Real quick, so that context, because obviously you have more details within there. Do you have a component that's based off of the context attribute or the field set?
Yeah. Context component.
Yeah, I just want to look at the selector.
Okay. Good catch.
Yeah, I like doing things like this because it is just semantic HTML, and I can connect my own component to that already semantic HTML, and you don't have to use all kind of silly wrappers for no reason whatsoever. So I would I would split this even out in a contacts and a contact component, like 2 components. But because this thing is small, I kept everything in here. But let's go over the code here. I have the context, which is an input required of field tree, sample data, contact detail. A really nice and short name I made for that array. And I have the contact list, which is just a signal of that thing. I check, is it the last one? Why am I checking that? Well, because I don't, now this thing is disabled. I don't want people to delete the last one. Why did I mess this up? So now this thing is disabled. When I add things, I cannot delete the last one. So I need to know, is there only one left? Is this the last one? Then I disable this delete button. Back to the code. So that is why the last one for is. The types is just an array with the available types. The background color, remember the orange? So for the background color of the contact, that is a field state of string. I return a computed of this contact where I pull out the pending, and pending is the signal form's way of telling, hey, this thing has a running thing on the background. And if it's pending, then the background is var orange 6, and otherwise it's empty.
Can you go to the definition of field state just so we can see everything that we have available to us there?
I don't know. I can try. Yeah, this is an Angular thing. So yeah, there is a boatload of things available there.
Yeah, but like the important ones, like, oh, it's submitting or it's pending, invalid, valid.
Yeah, there is a hidden disabled reason. If you disable something, there is a disabled, but there is also the reason why it is disabled. Sometimes that is informed. There is an errors array. There is an error summary. I didn't use that. I don't know what that's for. Is it valid? Yay, nay. Also. And is it invalid? Nay, yay, then. The pending, the submitting, is the form being submitted? That is also a thing that might come in handy.
Yeah, I've been working a lot with reactive forms, and submitting is only available on the NG form, not on any of the controls or groups or arrays inside of it.
In here, it's available everywhere, which is nice.
Yeah,
you needed it. You know about this, so and there is also metadata. So even on a form field, you can add your own data to those things, which is really nice. And I'm thinking about building a sample around that, but that needs to mature a little bit more. Oh, and there is a reset, which basically there's a reset, not that interesting. Back to the contact component. I have an add contact because this is the contacts listing, so I can add one. And I'm just doing that by getting the value and use the update. It is a signal. And I'm getting the contacts. I'm adding the contacts and I put one on the bottom. Remember that it depends where you do it. If I add one here, it goes on the bottom. If I add a tag here, it goes on the top. I did both of them to show that both are possible. It really doesn't matter how you do it. Also, it's not that hard. You just move those things a little bit around. Deleting, basically the same context update with context filter and throw away this contact. Let's go to the template of this thing. For contact of contacts, track index. How easy can it be iterating over an array in a form? You know what a pain this was before. in reactive or template-driven forms.
Oh,
It's
yes.
just-
yes. I always had to look it up.
Yeah, no need anymore. You just iterate over the thing, and the contact is a field tree, so you will have all of this data available for every field. And I create a row, and I have the select, this drop down with the value and the types in there, and I have the info, and here I'm doing the background color. Remember the background color for the pending thing. I'm also doing the show error here. I have a label and a thing also over here. I'm hiding those. Why am I hiding those? Again, accessibility. It is good to have them, but in my UI, there is no reason to put the type 4 times here. I should do something. I didn't, but I hide them because everything is inside of a label and you don't want to show this label everywhere. So I'm hiding this, but that is CSS. That is out of the scope are we talking about. Otherwise, we will still be here tomorrow. I don't mind, but probably you guys have something else to do. And a priority, which is a type number. Oh, be careful with type number because it breaks your flow. If you have... look, if I'm in this thing and I'm going to tap through it, you will see I have all the correct. But in here, oh, that works now. It's fixed. There are up and down buttons here. But like a couple of weeks ago, I could have sworn that it stops my tap focus. It got the tap focus on those things, and that is annoying. But apparently that is fixed in Chrome now. I didn't know when. But those up and down, you can change them here. It seems nice, but it is almost never what you want in a form if you do a numeric input. So use some other way to do numeric inputs. Let's go back to the code. If you guys have any questions or are uncertain on some things, go ahead.
Two questions. Can you go up to line 29? You're calling the background color function there at the end.
That is not a... Yeah. The background color function, that is this function that takes a contact and returns a computed.
So does that run once or does that run every time the form re-renders?
That runs once and then it returns a computed, and that computed will update whenever there is info there. It will not run. I don't think it will run. It's small, so I don't really care. I didn't.
Yeah.
If you're putting like thousands of those in a screen, I would say, okay, take a deeper look. I don't think it runs often. If it runs often, I would do it differently.
Yeah. The other question was actually on the same line. You're setting show error to an empty string. Any particular reason?
No. I can give a prefix string there, and that prefix, I'm actually not doing anything with the prefix there.
Okay.
I programmed it in, and then I found out I don't need this prefix. But perhaps you can use a prefix in some cases. So I thought it was a good idea, but then I didn't need it. Well, the field set context, that's what we had. Again, I have a field set of tags, which is even simpler than the other one. Again, the text is an input required or field tree string. And this is, what do I have here? Yeah. Add a tag is again just update the text list. Delete a tag, just throw one out. There is something being done for the max length. So if I'm having the max length, remember the view. If I add a boatload, it says max 7 tags. This thing comes from the validator. So there is only 1 7 in my code, and that 7 lives in my validator. So I'm reading that out here. that is where it's a little bit involved, but so
I'm confused about what gets separated and what doesn't. So like we've got max length, which is in the tags component, but you were talking about how you had moved validation out into, or at least show error for that directive.
yeah, this
Can you
is
talk to me about how you make that decision? I don't know. I get so confused.
well, the decision is pretty easy. Validation is a business logic. If you tell me no, it isn't, then I'm going to ask you, why are you redoing it on your server? It is
Okay.
business logic. So it should live in a service, or at least not in a component, because business logic has no place in a component. It has nothing to do with the view. It is like actually business logic. So it should live somewhere else. We can go into the validation first now. I can skip this. This is not, you can view this.
No, I don't want to skip anything though. So don't go out of order. I don't want to miss out. You're going to like cheat us on some content, man. But I won't make it jump ahead.
Again, I have a field set text, the same trick I did for the other one. I have a legend, and then if the max length is unequal to null, that actually means I have an error, and there are too many. I'm going to show this class span error with max tags. Remember, in here, max 7 tags. That is where that is all about. I use this because HTML is sometimes stupid, and you cannot set an error on a field set. I don't know why, but you cannot set an error on a field set. So you can only set an error on an input inside of a field set. So I created an input, and this input, the only reason it exists is because I want to show an error on the field set itself instead of on a thing. And then I have a for loop where I'm again tag of tags, class tags, type button delete. And if I want to delete it, I delete tag. And then I have an input with a show error. So it's really simple. And I have of course the button. Remember the plus button on the top, where I'm just adding it. So this is all nice and tidy. I have to have this after render effect because of this stupid thing with a field set that cannot set an error on itself. I had to work around it with a internal input. I'm going to talk with the Angular team to see if they can fix this in the field in the signal forms thing, but I don't think so, because this is really how HTML works, and it has little to nothing to do with.
So when you're talking about field set, because I know that when you're binding using signal forms, they're called fields, but the field set you're referring to is the DOM element field set, correct?
This field set, which is like the field set, which is the wrapper. A field set is actually the wrapper with the error.
Yes,
but if you want to show an error on your field set itself, you can set a custom error to a field set, but the field set is not going to do anything with it. The HTML field set, it's just ignoring it. You have to put an input in there and put it on there, and then you can display it, which makes some sense, but it is mostly because of historical reasons that have no bearing anymore. But that is why I do the trick with this input thing.
All right, can you go back to the markup for your component? Tags is fine. So in here, like say line 68, you have field equals fd address.state, or any of the ones that have a field on them.
Yeah.
Are there any other properties or inputs or directives that we need to be aware of besides field?
Nope.
Nothing for groups or anything else like that?
Nope, just one thing, field. Done.
So the concept of an address is also considered a field?
Yep.
Okay.
You can. I created a field set address in here. I think some password, blah, 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 field set address, and then I have field definition, address street, address city, address zip, address state. So yeah, this is just a normal object inside of an object.
Okay, so
you
more
don't need to
worrying
do
about
any
groups versus controls or arrays. Everything is just a field on a thing.
The basic concept is a field tree. A field tree, the root of a form is a field tree, and everything inside of that is also a field tree. And a field tree has basically three forms. One, it's a primitive. That means it is a normal text, Boolean, whatever. It's an object or it's an array. And those things are handled internally by the form, the signal form logic. So you don't have to think about it. Just throw it in. It works. And I'm not making it up. I'm even showing that it works.
No. So those are like the end nodes. Those are the actual values that the users can interact with.
Yeah. And then, I have a field tag.
Yep.
And notice that because I'm heading it over here in a field tree of string, it still knows whatever type it is that gets passed down through the whole thing. And I've never ever set any type somewhere. Yeah, I set a type on my model, but then I didn't tell that to the form.
All right, we have about 20 minutes left, and I think that what a lot of people want to get into is the validation.
Really? I think validation is boring and we should skip it, but okay.
How rude.
We can't just why not just have like one big text area and let everybody just type whatever they want in?
That would work for most forms anyway. But,
oh my gosh, you guys.
But okay, let's go into validation, because validation is actually fun with Angular now. It's easy. Remember my sample data validation schema, which
the one
is
with the short name.
The one with the short name. No, that is the thing that's go in there. But this is a helper function from the signals. Signal forms, not module. And you say, hey, I have a schema of sample data. This is a schema to validate sample data. And probably the relation is going to be, tada, schema pod tree, sample data pod kind root. Okay, I have no clue what that means, but I can see my sample data is in there. Which actually means that I can say, hey, my relation name is required. And the message is, a name is required. There is no magic there, but this alone makes it really, really powerful and really, really easy to use. There is also a valid, but required is boring. You also have max and max length and min length and a couple more pattern. But those are all boring because those are pre-cooked. We want to make our own validation. So there is a validate function where you can give your own validation logic. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say validate the relation name. And for that, I'm going to evaluate the value. What am I getting here? I'm getting a field tree here, Manfred, I think.
Not sure.
Go to the definition of validate, it'll tell you.
It will probably
needs the path and then it needs field validator.
Yeah, field. Okay.
Ooh.
You get basically you get access to the field state and the context. The context is something that I didn't talk about, but I'm not going to talk about it much because it is easily confusing to talk about, but it is easy to use. It's one of those things, if you try to explain it, nobody gets it. And then if you show them, they go, oh. So I'm getting the value out of this thing. And the value, of course, is a signal. So I'm reading it out. And I'm not sure why I'm doing it as string. I think that's auto-completion. I don't need it anymore. it knows it is a string because of the typing inside of the thing. So you don't need to do that. In here, I'm doing manual validation on the min length. I'm returning a min length error. This has changed. You can return errors in an easier way now. I have a pattern there where I'm doing a pattern. Also not interesting. But you see, I say a name must be at least 3 characters. Name must contains only letters and spaces. So you are completely free how to phrase your errors. There is going to be a thing with translations there, but that is for another show. I have some more errors here. I have a relation. Oh, I have an apply here. This one is interesting. Apply is interesting. What the hell is apply? Well, on the relation password, which is apparently a schema path of string, so probably password is a string. I have a password complexity schema. Okay, let's jump to this. Password complexity schema. Remember, there was like a big array of errors on my password. Well, I'm doing it here. I have a required, I have a min length of the password, and then I have a validate, and that does like a boatload of things. I think I don't need any anymore. I needed this in the beginning, but because the types were borked, I think it's fixed now, so I probably can remove this. Validation. Yeah, it is fixed. I could not use this because it would cause an error, so I used an error there. So if it doesn't contain an uppercase letter, I'm pushing this error. If it doesn't contain a lowercase letter, so I'm using some regex, a number, a special character. So there are like a boatload of things. And then if I have an error length, so one of those things apparently was error, I'm going to return the errors array, and otherwise I'm going to return null. Null basically means it's okay. No error. And here I have a custom error helper, which returns a validation error, and a validation is a kind, complexity, and the message. So you see, that's how I'm building those things here. This is actually pretty cool, I think. And also really useful. You can return an array of errors in one go, because if you don't return an array, you will get the errors one by one. So the user is typing, he gets the first error, and then he's typing again, he gets the next error. I think that's totally annoying the user, and you should give him all of the errors he's making so he can take them off. Remember this thing? If I would return the error and just return the first error, then he's typing and he gets the next error, and then the next error, and then the next error. Now he can read this and say, oh, it needs a boatload of things, and he can start working on that. So
Request in the chat for the show error directive, how that's working. Should we
I have a couple of things I want to show in the validators.
Oh yeah. Let's do it.
And then I will go there.
Yeah.
To your point about showing all the errors, I think that exposing all of the errors all the time makes sense, but what errors you show should be conditional about what the form implementation outside of the schema. So sometimes, like password, I want to show all of them, but the tag should not be empty. Should probably be the only thing shown there, not the duplicate part. But what I'm saying is that that's a UI concern outside of the validation.
That is a UI concern, and you can handle that in the UI. I can handle that in the errors directive if I want to, but I've chosen to show all errors on a field.
Yep.
So Mike, you're talking about kind of like prioritizing errors. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Also, there are cannot be empty. I have something here. I have tag cannot be empty, and then I have tag must be at least 2 characters. Those are basically mutual exclusive.
Yeah.
If I need at least 2, the empty error makes no sense. I could just show this, but that is what Mike was talking about. So in this case, I'm doing exactly that, but I'm also having a duplicate now. So yeah. Back to the validation. So I create another schema which is just for a string, and it takes the password tree thing, whatever the signal forms need. And I can build it and I can apply that. That is actually pretty cool. That makes my validations really, really composable. I can reuse this password complexity schema in all kinds of, like 10 levels deep. I have another password that I want to check the complexity. I can just reuse this validation schema. Let's go back here. Okay, I've required. Okay, that is also not interesting. That is like straight for. Oh, this is interesting. The cross-field validation. I have a validate relation confirm. The confirm is the confirm password. In here, I have the value, and I have a value of, and I have a state that I'm not using. I should remove this. Again. The const v is the value, that is the normal value of the thing, and the value of takes a path. So the relation password. So PW is the value of of another field in my form. And the relation password, it knows from up here. The relation is a sample data, so it's getting it from here. And that is actually important because if you're, I will show that later on. And if the value is unequal, I'm going to say a pattern error. I was using all kinds of errors here when I was building this. Nowadays, you can just return an object with a kind and an error and a message. And that's easy to understand.
I really like this value of, because in former days it was really difficult to grab over to a sibling and to get their values, but now it's just a one-liner, isn't it?
Exactly, it is a one-line. So the combination, this is the cross-field validation thing. If field is not field, return error, otherwise return 0. I cannot make this simpler than this. Okay, I have a couple of more repliers. And I have an apply relation text. Oh, but text is an array. There might be interesting things in there. Let's go to this sub thing. I have a text schema. And the text schema, remember the max length, the text array of 7, which gives me a message of maximum 7 text allowed. That is the one on the field set. So that is this one. And then for every tag, I have a tag schema, which is another schema. And I'm validating, it's required, it has a min length, and it validates. It has some more validations. That is not new. But here, this is the interesting one. Apply each. I'm going to apply on each of the things in this text array, the text schema. So this basically means that all of this validation applies to every line in my array. And in this case, it is just a primitive. And if you know how to handle primitive arrays in previous 4 modules, those things were hard. You had to jump to a boatload of hoops. And this is it. And it all hooks up everything. And it works charmingly, as you can see over here. Let me refresh the thing so that it's less error ridden. All of those fields are validated. If I add a new one in this validator, if I do the A, it works for all those things. And all of those things are validated. This is so powerful. Let me go back to the code.
Real quick. So inside of this tag schema, you're defining a schema. Have you done anything with essentially basically a get schema function that would take in options? Like basically required is a Boolean of, do you want to make this thing required? Because I find with a lot of the times that I'm writing validators, like I'm validating phone number, right? I write a validate function, but I don't want to necessarily in the schema to say, hey, it's required, because sometimes a phone number is required, sometimes it's not, depending upon what form it's being used in.
I've shown the apply E. I will come back to this.
Okay.
If I don't come back to this, remind me.
Okay. It's almost like the idea of like getting a custom schema and whether or not to apply something.
Yeah, but remember, I have the phone number and the telephone number with different validations in the same. Yeah. That is the same thing, and I'm going to show that.
I see.
Okay. In here, I have a validate with the value, the state, and the value of. Remember that I have this duplicate check in the text array. In here, I'm just looping over the whole array because I get the text is the value of the text array. And the text array, I'm giving that here. That is actually some field inside of my form. I don't care about the exact name here. I only care about the path inside of my schema. This is so powerful. This makes composition so easy. Mm-hmm. But in here, I'm getting the tag the tag to test. I get the index of the tag I'm testing. And I get an array of all the tags that are in my form. And then I'm just looping over it and I'm checking, hey, am I testing myself? Because that probably will end up badly if I say, and the tag is equal, then I return the error. Yeah. And this runs on all of those things. And that's why you saw the error going up and forward. Remember, I find this so mesmerizing, even if you do things like this where it just updates the error. But that is probably a me thing. So this is how simple it is to check for duplicates inside of an array. Back to the sample. The next one, the context schema, and that is a little bit more involved. I have a sample data context, and that is the sample data contact detail array thing. So this is that array thing. I have a min length. Okay, I want to have at least one contact in there. And here again, an apply each, and then a contact schema. And here I am applying to sample data contact detail. Before version RC2, you had to have this typing was way more painful than it is now. You just give it up here. I'm going to get the types. Okay, the info is required, and I'm going to validate. Well, I'm validating. Oh, I'm even checking if the type itself is correct, because if something goes haywire in here, because this is a drop down, so probably that could never go wrong, right? But if I select a type, that means I didn't select a type, and I have an invalid contact type. I'm even checking that.
And also from the idea of the validator, you just want to check to make sure that that type is valid, because there's nothing to say that the person who is creating a form using this schema is going to be using a dropdown. They might be using an input for that too, a text box.
Yeah, so that is why you want to check those things. Back to the code. So that is where I'm validating the type. And here, apply schema based on the type. Apply when value. There is your answer, Mike.
To a point. I mean, I get what you're saying, that you want to apply this schema when the type is email. And I get that. That makes a whole lot of sense. But I'm saying that the idea of whether or not something is required is not necessarily derivable from another form value. That would be something that the implementer of a form would say, in this case, phone, for example, is required, but in this one over here, phone is not required.
So in that case, would you default to like making them specify for every form what field is required? Like, so and just
yeah, context schema is an object that gets returned from that function. But if there's a wrapper function, and we're basically querying this, that we could say required is being passed in,
Oh, okay.
then we could essentially optionally include the required validator from line 15.
There are ways to do that, but then you're talking more about dynamic forms, because usually when you're building a form, you are building the validation and you know which field is required and which field is not required. It is
right.
The business
But I'm
logic.
saying I'd like to be able to define a schema for phone number, that it needs to have 10 things, it can allow spaces, dashes, whatever, those types of validations, those patterns. However, the idea of whether or not a field is required is something that I could give to the schema to say, hey, give me a required schema, give me a not required schema. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not
I
looking
know.
for you to break this.
No, I'm not going to break it. The thing is, you can easily create a wrapper that does an if. The thing is, it's a one time. During the first time, it can decide. It will not be updated in between. So if you want to change your options runtime, you have to do some extra work there.
Fair enough.
So my take on this would be, you usually have some validation rules that are always required for this or that type.
Yes.
And then you have some additional validation rules that you need for this or that use case. And the good thing is you can use apply to apply the rules that are always there, and then add your further rules. That means you can have a scheme on both levels, on the type level and on the feature level. And so, in my opinion, both can come nicely together.
Yeah, there are multiple ways to roam.
Yeah.
So I have an apply when, and then I'm doing the email, I'm doing the fax. I split this out for the mobile and the phone, where I'm reusing the phone number schema. So you're seeing I'm actually gradually building those things. So the email address validator, which is also, it has the validate email address, it has a pattern thing, and it has an async validator in there. I'm showing async validation.
Yep, that's why I brought the question on screen.
So this is really in the experimental phase. The API of this is not set in stone, and I hope it will be simpler than this. But right now you have to do, you create a validate async, and you give it an object that has a parameter, and a factory that has a parameter, that has a resource that has a parameter. And then it has a loader that accepts the parameters. So that makes it really simple to reason about, right? This will get better. But what I'm doing here is, these are the parameters that I'm going to validate. I'm getting the value and I'm getting the state. And I'm doing something here. I don't want to run my, don't want to run this async validator if my state is not dirty. Because by default, the form system will run all validators. If you load the thing, it will run all validators, even for all the fields that are dirty, to make sure that all the errors are up to speed, or are in sync with what is inside of the form. I'm pretty sure that if I put in something from my program, it is valid from the get-go. I'm not going to give the user a form with invalid pre-filled fields in there. So I know if it's not dirty, I don't need to check this thing. So if it's dirty, I'm going to check the value, and otherwise I'm going to do the undefined. Remember, if you use a research and it gets undefined, it does nothing. That is exactly what I'm using here. Then I'm getting a factory where I'm getting this parameters, which is now a signal of string and undefined. I'm creating a resource where I'm getting the params, which is a base resource option, params, string or undefined or undefined. Okay. And I have a load. This is basically a normal resource. I'm having a mat random here, and I'm having a await promise just to simulate something going to the server. I'm not going to the server. I want to show this in the browser. I have existing emails. If I have one of the existings, I'm going to return false, and otherwise, if I have one of the existing ones, I'm going to return true, and I have an error, otherwise I'm going to return false. I have an on error, I have a server connection error. I've shown that if there is something going haywire with the server, I can signal that. And then I have an on success, so I'm getting a response back from the resource, so there is a value from the resource. And the result I'm getting here, which is a Boolean true or false, which is the return of this existing mail includes, that returns a Boolean. And if it's true, I'm going to set a server error, email address already exists, and otherwise I'm going to return 0. This is a really powerful way to build async validators. You can put in anything you do. There is already an HTTP validator that makes a load of those things optional. But I didn't want to use a real HTTP, so I had to go to the pain of using all of this. But it is a really powerful way to build your own validators. Async validators even. And this will get better. They know this is not like a perfect API. Back to the context validation.
We are at the top of the hour, though, so I think we may have to cut this here. But I think getting through all the different types of validators you have, the individual, the array, object, asynchronous, synchronous, cross-field validation, all those different pieces, with essentially binding to two different things, right? You need to bind to the form at the top level to say, hey, this thing I've got here is a form, and then each one of the fields is a field.
Yeah. Well, you don't even need to build. No, you don't even need to bind to the form, because form is just a normal thing you should do if you are building accessible forms. This has nothing to do with the signal forms. This is just a normal form. So you just have to use the field thing. The field thing is the field thing, and the form generating the form, which is basically attaches all of the signal forms metadata to your model. So apparently we don't have time to go into the show error thing, which is good for me.
If you can share a link to the repo, if that's public, then we can definitely share that. And
I think that link you shared at the beginning has the repo, right?
Oh yeah.
You can. There is this view source here. You can click it and
on the. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much, Sander. This was amazing. I'm scrolling through trying to find it. I think this is the signal. Yeah, that's so.
To reiterate, the signal forms are at an experimental state, so not dev preview or anything else. And coming in v21, it's in the pre-release there. Is it going to go live with 21 as a experimental tag, or okay?
Yep.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much, Sander. Before we wrap, does anyone have anything inside or outside of tech you want to give a shout out to from this past week or so?
Yeah, I'm still looking for a new challenge. So if you need a Angular developer that knows a little bit about Angular. So also I wanted to give a shout out to Kendo. I've been looking on the website, and they actually have like a pretty good component library, and that is rare to hear for me, because I'm always telling everyone stay away from all third parties, and I still stand by that. But if there is like a proper third party that is doing the support and everything that needs to go there, you can use it. It's safe. So.
And I did do a sneaky announcement at NGConf, but we are working our way towards open core, so that's very exciting for. We want to enter the open source space, and so I'm very, very excited for that. I think that'll allow a lot more people to be able to use the component library. But yeah, so thank you, Sander, very much. Manfred, Mike, any shout outs you want to do before we wrap?
Well, this week I integrated hash brown into our example application, into our flights application. Hash brown is a really nice open source project for integrating AI into your systems, especially in the front end. And yeah, I would recommend everyone to give it a try.
That's awesome. Mike, you got any shout outs?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, we are going to wrap. Please, everyone, have a marvelous, safe, and warm weekend. Happy Friday. And we'll see you all in the next one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.